In this video, we'll talk about cryptocurrencies right now, so welcome to the one video that will take you from being a crypto noob to being a crypto genius. Alright, Bitcoin, blockchain, Ethereum, and NFT. I'll tell you what it is, why it is becoming more important, and the downside. Okay, so when civilization was in its early beginnings, there was no such thing as money, and the only way to buy something from someone was to approach them and say, "I like your carrots. I'll trade you my tomatoes for it." However, the problem with such a system is that even if you are perfectly willing to give up your carrots, you may not want tomatoes, so the trade will never take place. This is where currency comes in because they were made of precious materials such as gold and silver. Everyone simply accepted that they were worth something. You've heard of the British pound, right? Well, the reason they're called pounds is because 1 pound literally used to be worth 1 pound of silver. So in a trade, it doesn't matter if you don't want my tomatoes, because as long as I have coins, we can still trade for your carrots even if you have no use for the silver. Because it's a precious material, you have that reassurance that you can take that coin to give it to someone else and trade for something that you want. Convenient, isn't it? However, as banks became established and governments gained control, we learned that as long as there was trust in the system, we could move away from the necessity to carry precious metal chunks and towards something even more convenient: paper currency. It does the same thing, but now the money has value because the government says it has value, like this £10 note here in the UK. You can see that all this is the Bank of England promising to pay the bearer of this note £10. But as technology advanced, we discovered even more convenient ways of storing and trading our belongings, where more people than ever are buying things online and using credit cards. And when you're at that stage, we don't even see our money anymore. It's not about coins, notes, or tomatoes. It's just entries on a spreadsheet. For example, when I buy a music album from Amazon, all that happens is that my bank adds an entry to my spreadsheet that says Peter now has $10 less, and then Amazon's bank adds a record that says they have $10 more. So the reason I've given you this full intro is to give you context on where cryptocurrency is now located. Many people regard it as the most convenient age of exchange ever, and the way to think about a cryptocurrency is that it's 100% secure. With crypto, there is no gold, silver, or paper. It is simply the transfer of digital assets. Think of them as running spreadsheets of who's paid what to who, but instead of various banks having their own separate records, with crypto there is simply one massive spreadsheet of every transaction performed using that currency, and this is called a ledger. Okay, we all have a fantastic spreadsheet, but what's all the fuss about? Why is everyone going crypto crazy? Well, there are several significant advantages to a currency system like this one. It's decentralized, which means that while every transaction of a specific currency is recorded, cryptocurrency is all recorded on the same ledger, which contains multiple copies and is shared by everyone in the network. You may have heard of cryptocurrency mining or Bitcoin mining. This is about someone who sets up a computer to crunch for transactions on their copy of this ledger or spreadsheet. There are already around 1 million Bitcoin miners throughout the world, and Bitcoin is only one type of cryptocurrency. If you use your computer's processing power in mining, say, Bitcoin, you will receive some Bitcoin in exchange. As a result, if I go into a store and spend 5 Bitcoin on something, the shop instead checks with every single computer on this network to see if I have enough. And if I do, each computer will give the go-ahead, and then every single one will update their records independently. So because you end up with this many copies of exactly the same ledger, it becomes very easy to tell if anyone is trying anything fishy. For example, if I try to hack into someone's computer on the network and give myself more money by adjusting figures on their copy of the ledger, the system will realize that 99.9% of the copies on the ledger are saying one thing, but one of them is saying something else, indicating that the system has been tampered with. There's a very clear organization to the system, and I think people believe in it because they see the future as open traceable transactions rather than having some bits of the record over here and other bits over there. I know it appears complex at this point, but as we go through this, I think you'll realize that it's simpler for a lot of people. There are many parts of the world that have internet access, which is all you need for crypto, but don't have access to traditional banks, which require a lot of paperwork and documentation. Well, I've already hinted at this, but the main advantage of crypto is that you don't need banks anymore because everything is stored by the people on this ledger. With no spending limitations and no exchange rates, interest rates, or even transaction expenses for some cryptocurrencies, you may make international payments almost instantly rather than taking half a day. But now comes the exciting part. Cryptography secures cryptocurrencies, which is why they are referred to as such. Blockchain is one example of this, which is utilized by several large cryptocurrencies, such as Bitcoin. People are frequently confused by this blockchain because it is not Bitcoin. Blockchain is simply a safe type of ledger, similar to the big spreadsheet that everyone possesses that records transactions. Blockchain is simply a method of organizing it into chunks. So whenever I pay for something with Bitcoin, that transaction is recorded as a block. Each block contains transaction data such as who was paid and how much, a hash, which is a unique identifier, the hash of the previous block in the sequence or the last transaction that was recorded, and the pivot on which this system is built is that if something in a block is changed, the hash of that block will change. You can probably see where this is headed because each block contains the data from the preceding block. If the hash of the block here changes, the following block will no longer have a matching hash with it, and so every subsequent block after that one becomes worthless. When you combine this with what we discussed previously, the idea of a million separate users each having their own copy of the blockchain ledger becomes invalid. Then, if I wanted to create a fraudulent transaction that says paid me money, I'd have to not only tamper with a block and every single block after it, but I have to do it on at least 500,000 computers around the world so that the majority of computers in the system are also consistent with the one I've tampered with. It's probably not going to happen, whereas hacking into someone's dollar account and sending myself money does happen. And it's sometimes as simple as literally guessing someone's 6-digit PIN. But there's a huge difference between that and trying to hack into 500,000 unrelated computers at once. Okay, good. But cryptocurrencies have also problems. I'll get to them in a minute, but maybe you can see why some people are excited about them, which gets people to investing. You probably heard of people investing in cryptocurrencies, which simply means that they're swapping traditional currencies like dollars for cryptos like Bitcoin. They're hoping that those cryptocurrencies will become the next big thing and thus skyrocket in value, allowing them to either spend them or simply exchange them for more dollars than they paid for them. There's actually a term for cryptocurrencies that skyrocket like this: going to the moon, we're mooning. However, depending on who you speak to, this might mean very different things. The only decision that someone would have to make at this point is which cryptocurrency to use. Since we discussed Bitcoin, but Bitcoin is only one of over 4,000 other cryptos, each with unique qualities. For example, Ethereum, which is the second most invested in, can process transactions even faster than Bitcoin. There's one called Cardano, which is considered to be technologically superior, and there's one called Litecoin, which has a newer algorithm. The reason I believe many people do not take cryptocurrencies seriously is its volatility. Because these currencies are so new and wholly digital. Unlike the gold market, no one really understands what they should be worth, and so you find that crypto prices are quite heavily speculative. They're tied to the news cycle, like when a glowing article comes out about them, prices spiral upwards, but then when Elon Musk posts a tweet that puts them down, they go way down. Also, they're not widely recognized as a means of payment in most places. Yes, you can now book vacations with cryptocurrency, and I can donate to Wikipedia with cryptocurrency. But there have been a lot of firms that have been hesitant to accept it. Microsoft, Tesla, and even Burger King are examples of firms that indicated they would accept Bitcoin and then said they wouldn't. Another reason why I believe people do not take crypto seriously is that there may be an environmental concern. Because the entire reason that many of these cryptos are so secure is because of this concept of transactions being verified many times by many computers. I believe it's a fair criticism that this in itself creates a fundamental inefficiency because much computing power requires a lot of electricity. However, you might counter this by claiming that traditional banking consumes more electricity, that there are newer coins with better technology that are more efficient, and that one day we will be able to receive that electricity from renewable sources, depending on who you ask. The last reason is that there's a strong belief that because there's no real police or regulation on crypto right now, it's the ideal currency for criminals, and I believe this is because it's a common misconception that currencies like Bitcoin are anonymous. They're actually pseudonymous, which means that even if your actual details aren't visible to everyone, your public key, your unique identifier, will be permanently baked into the blockchain when you make transactions with it. So cash is actually a superior currency for most forms of illicit activities since it is untraceable. In fact, how was World War II financed? With Bitcoin? Obviously not. In addition to the disadvantages of cryptocurrencies, there are some truly bizarre things that have occurred as a result of crypto. For example, you may have heard of a non-fungible token NFT. If you haven't, you might want to take a seat for this one. I don't want to call it stupid, but this one's a head-scratcher, so you know how now you can go into an art gallery and pay to own a painting. Well, now thanks to the blockchain, you can pay just to have digital ownership over something so it doesn't stop anyone from using or sharing that thing. But all it means is that you'd effectively be the owner of the original and then all be sharing copies of it, even if they look and perform identically for the most part, as many of these NFT are simply just JPEG photos. I believe the reason some people find this ridiculous and sort of hilarious is that there's a distinct difference between purchasing an NFT and buying the rights to anything. So if you buy the right of something, that's a very valid purchase because you can manufacture merch or sell licenses. With an NFT, you can't. The original owner still has all the reproduction rights over that piece. All you're doing is using the blockchain to establish that you have some ownership over that asset. Jack Dorsey, the former CEO of Twitter, sold the first tweet he ever posted as an NFT for $2.9 million. This is CryptoWalk. I'll see you in the next one.